Miami and Beijing. It's Mean and Sober. And now, part of this complete breakfast, they're enjoying a steaming hot cup of kofeve and a heaping bowl of treason bran. It's your hosts, Ethan Moore and John Gregory. Hey, John, how you doing?
Oh, just sipping on this delicious kofefe. How about you, Ethan?
Oh, I thought you'd be eating the treason brand with the other conservatives.
You're the one in communist China right now, Ethan, so...
Touché.
Yeah.
Very good point. Oh, man, but your boy Trump, John.
You mean our president, Trump?
I mean, the man you voted for.
He's your president. I don't vote, Ethan.
Oh, so wait, even though I didn't vote for him, I voted for the other person? The lady? Still?
Yeah.
Still?
Yeah, of course.
He's my president?
All the more reason. He's more your president than my president because you voted.
Look at you backing away from Trump. I knew it. I knew that this week would be too much even for you, John.
Look, longtime listeners know I'm a big Putin guy. Okay, and
that you are.
And I feel like Trump could have done a little more, to reconcile things with our greatest ally.
So you thought he wasn't conciliatory enough.
Yeah, it's kind of embarrassing, actually. I was embarrassed for very unpresidential, in my opinion.
His lack of deference to Putin was treasonous.
I think so.
Holy shit, John. So holy shit. Let's talk about this seriously. Whoa. Trump met with Vladimir Putin in Helsinki, Echo. And what happened?
Basically, Pearl Harbor, 9/11, and Kristallnacht happened all in one conference, Ethan.
All at once?
Well, that's what the mainstream media would have you believe.
Who are the who are the Jews / U.S. Navy / New Yorkers in this analogy?
Still the media.
Okay. So Trump won. He beat them again.
Absolutely. They're owned.
That sounds wrong.
Those libs got owned hard.
Oh my God, John. So I had to catch up, this week because as listeners know, I'm in China.
Yes.
And I'm out of the loop. I've been
right because they don't let news go in or out of China.
As you said, they're light years ahead of us. So relaxing here, I just look out my window at the Zen garden. I choke on some smog and enjoy a fake news-free environment. That's what they say in China, that we can't have fake news without any news.
Yeah, Thomas Jefferson said that a man who reads nothing is uninformed, but a man who reads the lying lamestream media is misinformed.
Yeah, he said that. The lamestream media.
Read the Constitution sometime, Ethan.
You mean noted racist Thomas Jefferson?
Yeah. If he's so racist, why did he make it illegal to import slaves? Checkmate.
Because he didn't want competition. For his homegrown slaves. Everyone knows that.
That's disgusting. Apologize, sir.
Resign, sir.
Resign, sir.
President Jefferson. Not my president, John. Oh, man. Well, I'll tell you what happened this week, John. I caught up. I turned on my VPN. And
goddamn time.
I got out my digital shovel and I shoveled under that great firewall. And I read the news this week, and good God, John, it was shocking. It was shocking. Remember how I told you that my father, he taught politics and he in political science, and he had me memorize all the presidents when I was young, and taught me that the Constitution was the greatest thing except for the Bible ever.
Sounds like a good man.
I mean, really, he is. And so this was very shocking to my constitutionalist ears, John. It was a rude awakening.
He's totally done away with everything that our republic stands for.
I agree. I don't know. I'll tell you what happened this week. For our listeners who maybe haven't been able to get the news, maybe we have some other listeners here in China and they haven't been able to break through the firewall. I'll try to summarize what happened, John. It all starts with Mueller time. So Trump,
as always.
So Trump is going to Helsinki to visit his good friend Vladimir Putin. And
friend of the pod.
No. And the day before that, I guess, as part of the Mueller investigation, like Trump's Justice Department indicted a bunch of Russian government GRU spies, like Putin's guys, for
GRU, Ethan. We've established that you say GRU, not GRU.
The GRU. Okay, I'm more of a shower, not a grewer. Anyway. For hacking the DNC, right? That's what they did. The GRU. They hacked the DNC.
Yes.
And they tried to hack into some state election computers. I guess they didn't actually do that.
Well, hold on. Let's not forget the way in which they hacked into the DNC, because they sent Podesta an email of just
with
the
child
most
porn.
Basic. They lured him in with child porn. They know how he operates. And no, but what they did is they sent him one of the most basic phishing emails of all time. Just like, oh, hey, something's not working. What's your password?
Yeah, because Podesta's a boomer.
And let's not forget that his password was password. Okay? So, this idea of, the GRU, they hacked in. I feel like if his password was password, they would have figured it out. They would have eventually gotten to it, you know? They're try Podesta. Oh, that didn't work. Try password. We're in.
So, Don, what you're saying is that you could be sleeping there in the large Gregory estate, and then
Manor, really,
the Gregory Manor, and then some homeless meth-addled vagrant could me possibly could notice that for some reason the front door wasn't locked. And then could wander in, have his way with your wife, and you could do nothing about it because, after all, you left the door unlocked.
Ethan, while it's true I keep my front door unlocked,
yes,
that's because it is booby-trapped with a shotgun. So if anyone strolls in, they're going to get their heads blown off,
John,
Ethan.
Turns out the DNC's door was booby-trapped, too, with a shotgun named Robert Mueller. It's Mueller time. So anyway, the GRU, yes, they hacked in. They committed a computer crime, John, internet crime, and now Mueller says they have to go to internet jail. He has indicted them.
They're going to get zucked.
That's right.
No Facebook for 30 days.
Just like you. I heard you got zucked this week.
I did get zucked. I had a 24-hour post block on Facebook.
What did you do to warrant that, John? Mean and sober?
What I did, actually, because I was trying to make a post making fun of the way liberals were reacting to this Helsinki debacle.
Yes, not a strong enough word, I say.
Genocide. And,
Shoah.
And so basically what I said, liberal comedians are like, oh man, I hate what a hateful bigot Trump is. And also he's a fag for Putin. He's sucking Putin's dick. He's a homo. But if you say fag, apparently that gets you a zuck. That's a one-day zuck.
Wow, John.
And the shocking thing about it was that it didn't let me use Facebook Messenger either during that 24-hour period.
So you couldn't do your black market transactions when you sell Bitcoin and get paid in Facebook dollars.
Literally, yes. I mean, I do use Facebook because they have an encrypted messenger service, and it's actually pretty good. And the fact that I couldn't use it.
It's just funny, like, oh, yeah, it's totally encrypted. Yeah, Zuckerberg can't read that at all.
But, like, the fact that I called Trump
the password
a bag,
is password, by the way.
Not how encryption works. I'm sure your blockchain business venture is going to go extremely well, but
I'm just trying to speak to the common people, John.
Well, then maybe pull the dildo out of your mouth, Ethan. But
how do you know the common people don't like dildos? I think you're wrong.
Maybe over in godless China.
I will tell you something that's funny about that's sort of on that same tip with China is one thing that I forgot about is, man, they have a different notion of personal space here.
Oh, they have none.
They have none, and so they just like walk like within like 1 millimeter of you and walk around you, which is very funny. But also the boys, they hang on each other. So
what do you mean?
Like, I mean, like, you'll see, like, two boys, like, walking down the street with, like, their arms, like, around each other. And
weird.
They're not gay or anything. And, like, girls holding hands and stuff all the time. And it's just, like, because, like, hey, we're friends. We're close.
Let's kiss on the lips.
Can you imagine that, John? Like, imagine you hanging out with, like, one of your boys from, like, Columbus High or whatever. You're just, like, walking down the street.
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, let's go mac on those two chicks holding hands.
Just, like... Yeah, elbows interlocked,
Oh, totally.
No, Ethan, that to me strikes me as so un-American. Like the first time some Cuban woman tried to do that, like kiss on the cheek greeting, I'll be honest.
You pushed her into a ditch. Right?
Yeah,
okay.
I knocked her fucking teeth in. Like, how dare you? No, but like I guess it's because in America we were raised by Protestant lunatics, so it's not okay to touch each other.
That's one of the things that us Protestants got right. You're welcome, John. You're welcome. Okay.
Once again, the Chinese are light years ahead of us.
Yeah, they're all Catholic.
No, but the Chinese are like, it's not gay to like kiss your bro goodnight. Like, there's nothing gay about that. I like that.
You bigots. Right. All right, John. So basically, what you're saying is that Trump is gay for Putin, like the Chinese are gay for each other.
And you know what? In my mind, it's not okay, Ethan.
That's right. That's right. I will summarize. Trump went to Helsinki this week and sucked Putin's dick on international television in front of the world, John.
Disgraceful.
No.
And you know what that was? That's our generation's 9/11, Ethan.
Why do you keep comparing it to that?
Because some dipshit for Politico said, this is our generation's 9/11. He tweeted that. Like a big fucking moron. And he got owned super hard because someone went, actually, our generation's 9/11 is 9/11.
That's funny. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, it's duh, But, like, the idea that it's been compared to Pearl Harbor or 9/11 or Kristallnacht, that was the most ridiculous one, I think.
Did anyone ever... Who said that? No one said Kristallnacht.
Oh, someone did say Kristallnacht on MSN.
Echo.
But no, it's so ridiculous because it shows like the complete level of hysteria and willingness to lie. I mean, let's be honest, because it's not 9/11. It's not comparable to 9/11.
No, it's not the same as 9/11.
This press conference? No, I'm sorry, it's not a 9/11.
But it was hilarious.
Yes,
it was hilarious. That's why it wasn't like 9/11, because 9/11 wasn't actually that funny.
Yeah, it took years for 9/11 to be funny.
I mean, yeah, it's funny now.
You're right.
But no, I'm actually not sure if 9/11 is funny. But this press conference was immediately funny.
For sure.
I mean, it was so funny. Like Trump was asked, "Oh, so did Putin hack us? Because your Justice Department says that you did." And Trump was like, "Well, there's good people on both sides." And by the way, that was just an excuse made up by the Democrats. So then he started talking about the number of delegates and Because actually, it's 538 if you want to win. That's the total number. And by the way, Hillary ran a terrible campaign. Like, he's going into this, like, Fox News mode. It was insane. Like, and they were like, so Putin, what do you think? Like, should you want to extradite those criminals that, and then Putin's like, well, what criminals? Your own president says that there was no hack. No one extradite. I was like, oh my God. Insane.
Yeah, but what was the thing that Trump said when he came out the next day and he said, "Oh, I meant to say wouldn't instead of would."
Well, yeah. So basically, what happened? So like, so Trump said, I don't think they would have hacked us or whatever. Or I don't think they did. And so then he's asking, so the other thing Trump said that was really funny was he said, so he and Putin had met privately. And he said, hey, so Putin came up with this great plan where Putin's going to extradite the Russian hackers, or so-called hackers, in exchange... Alleged hackers, in exchange for Trump handing over, like, a bunch of Obama-era diplomats to be tortured in Russia's Stalinist gulags.
Win-win, Ethan.
Like Trump was like, yeah, let's just hand over our guys, because he said, yeah, I'll extradite them. I'm like, what? So, well, what happened next? Well, then what happened? Yeah, so Trump backpedaled because after that, the military-industrial shit hit the $9,000 taxpayer-funded fan, John. It was,
right.
John Bolton's mustache went into full bristle mode, Like Trump's national security advisor and his ambassador to Russia, like they were like floating, resigning in the media. And then so Trump goes on TV and is like, actually, no, I misspoke when I said I wouldn't blame the Russians. I meant I would blame them. I got wood and wouldn't confused. It's a common mistake.
Yeah. George Bush used to flub his lines all the time. We never gave him a hard time for it,
Right. So Trump's like, yeah, next question. It was wouldn't, not would, or whatever. And it's like, okay, but that doesn't make sense in the context of any of the other things you said.
No. I know. He's acting like it all hinged on one word. It's like, no, you're up there for like 40 minutes.
Right. Yeah, he came on your face twice. I mean. So then Trump also mentioned that and Putin's going to be coming to Washington.
Yeah, he is.
And so then that happened, and then after that, the U.S. Senate met yesterday, I think, and passed a resolution 98-0 that said that Trump is not allowed to send our diplomats to Russia's gulags. And now a bunch of Democrats are trying to subpoena the secret conversation that Trump had with Putin. Like, and people are saying we need to like call up the can the interpreter testify? And like,
oh my God!
But like, wow, man! Like nothing. I don't think anything like this has ever happened in America before, where people are like,
no,
let's get the interpreter because we can't trust what the president said.
But that's so weird because Putin speaks English anyway. Strange to me he needed an interpreter. Maybe Trump thinks that he doesn't speak English.
He just has a thick accent. No.
Trump's like, I need subtitles or something. Someone get in here.
No, John, he's translating Trump's TV blowhardisms into like ordinary English so Putin can understand.
Yeah, Putin's like, what is bigly?
Right. So John, I got to ask you, after all this stuff that happened this week, are you still maintaining that the CIA killed Kennedy? Because if
what are you kidding?
If they could really pull something out like that off, don't you think Trump would have been dead 6 months ago? Like, I don't see how. How is it possible?
Kennedy was an actual threat to the CIA because if you remember, he was openly talking about disbanding the CIA, and he gave that speech about how secret societies are like repugnant to our American democracy, and he was extremely popular, whereas Trump, not extremely popular, and it doesn't look like he's got a good grip on the political machine in Washington. I don't think they view him as a threat. I think they're more like, yeah, just let him keep talking, you know. And some Democrat is some baby boomer is going to buy a gun and try and shoot Trump.
So they're just counting on the political divisions in our society to do their job for them.
And you know who else is? Putin.
Yeah, but he really is, though.
Yeah, he is. That's the other thing. That's the thing that's so funny is like the whole reason that Putin did this election meddling, which, by the way, it wasn't just for Trump. I'd like to remind the listeners that he also had stuff that was like pro Bernie Sanders. He just wanted to sow chaos.
Yeah, that's true. Right.
In the American electorate, and it's so funny because all the Democrats are saying that, oh, Trump is playing right into Putin's hand. This is all according to Putin's plan. Putin's the puppet master here. He's doing exactly what Putin wants, and it's like, yeah, but so are you. Like this whole thing, this is exactly what he wanted. Like he wanted to make the presidential election seem illegitimate, you know?
Right.
And the fact
and that... And it was, John, it was.
Ethan, voting is a sacred voting is our most sacred institution, and there's just no way, there's absolutely no fraud that has ever been committed in any U.S. federal election. Ask Obama. He said so.
Okay, John. Speaking of Kennedy, by the way. Yeah. Hey, let me ask you this: what do you think about using the blockchain to vote?
I love it. I'm all for it. I mean, like,
wait a minute. You don't even believe in voting?
Well, but this way would actually, once you take using the blockchain to vote, what that does is it takes political power away from the state and gives it to the people. Because it makes like the government totally subject to the will of the people, because the blockchain is a decentralized platform. So there's no way that the government, like for instance, when George W. Bush won the election in a very contested election where there's tons of, hanging chads and stuff.
Right.
And by the way, that the state that the entire federal election depended on was the one that his brother was governor of.
Yeah, Florida, John. That's right.
Yeah. So I feel like taking the electoral process out of the hands of like people who are literally brothers, is probably a good idea overall.
And then also you have to vote. Everyone has to vote.
No.
Or you don't get your tokens. We gotta pump that ICO, John.
Actually, what I like the idea of people who aren't interested in politics selling their vote on the blockchain.
How would that work?
Well, I mean, because if you vote with say you get like a vote coin, everyone gets a vote coin,
Okay.
and by tracking where the vote coin goes, you can determine that's who they voted for. If people are uninterested in voting, they're uninformed or they just don't give a shit, I think it would be hilarious and actually good if they could sell their vote coins to other people. So people, the wealthier among us who bought Bitcoin at the right time, we would have more political influence than some John, teacher in communist China.
John, this is your way to reintroduce indentured servitude.
Voluntary indentured servitude, Ethan.
Yeah, you're like, so the landed white gentry.
It's funny because in the digital landscape, I became landed. With right. The Bitcoin. It's like, and Ethan, and that's a beautiful thing, and it's something we should all embrace.
What, your windfall?
Just the windfall of white male libertarians in general, I would say.
Is that who's holding all the crypto? Is it white male libertarians?
Yes.
It is, isn't it?
It really is. And no, it's a funny thing because I do think American politics over the next like probably 5 years or so is going to be like libertarianism is going to make a comeback because you have all these new libertarian millionaires, you know,
Right.
and they're going to be able to influence the political landscape the same way that Hillary Clinton does with Saudi Arabia's money.
I actually wonder about sort of where all this is going. You and I were actually talking offline yesterday about like some of the possibilities. Like I told you that obviously governments don't like this stuff, right?
Right.
I mean,
in fact,
cryptocurrency is a direct threat from the like agorist class theory, right? People start taking their transactions offline.
Absolutely. And it makes it impossible for the government to collect revenue through taxation.
Yeah. So what do you think the governments do about that?
Well, someone in the U.S. Congress just introduced a bill to ban all cryptocurrencies. It's not going to go anywhere because it has like, but it's just a thing so that he can bring that bacon home to his senile 80-year-old Fox News watching moron constituents and be like, I tried to ban the Bitcoin just like you wanted me to, But
that's what them kids used to buy the crack, isn't it?
That's how they listen to all their rap music on the blockchain. But
more like off the blockchain. Okay, sorry.
But it's funny because Putin did a 180 on crypto in 2016. He banned it. And then within 100 days,
he owned it. He owned all of it.
But he and other Russian billionaire oligarchs are converting Soviet tank factories into being Bitcoin mining farms.
And you like that?
I do like that, but it's just it's in Russia. It's like there is not a clearly defined distinction between the state and gangsters, and so that's kind of it's kind of a problem. It's like the worst like people compare it to anarcho-capitalism, but it's like no, because they're using the state to legitimize organized crime, which was like the entire agorist class theory anyway.
Yeah, that's not anarcho-capitalism. That is the few controlling the many. Yeah, they have all the crypto, and they and like North Korea have a lot of crypto. A bunch of places that aren't supposed to, they're supposed to be really bad, have cryptocurrencies.
Yeah.
Ergo, crypto is bad. We should ban it.
Well, the reason North Korea has crypto is pretty obvious. So it's so they can get around U.S. sanctions.
Yeah, of course.
Of course. And the reason Russia has crypto is so that their billionaire oligarchs can still do organized crime. And but the funny thing is people don't realize that because when you look at that and you're like, oh, these bad people use this money for bad things. It's like that's how you know it's a good money. Like way more drugs get sold in U.S. dollars than in Bitcoin. It's not even close.
Yeah.
Like cash, dollar bills is still like the preferred drug currency internationally over Bitcoin.
I think crypto is less than 0.1% of all drug transactions.
Yeah, I believe that. And we got to get those numbers up.
I agree. Well, so there's a lot of different responses that governments could have to crypto. I mean, like you said, like Russia's embracing it, which is actually probably smart.
Yes.
China actually is about to introduce their own state cryptocurrency.
Really?
Which I feel like crypto is sort of a misnomer.
Right.
It's like how secret is this, really?
Yeah. How much privacy are you going to have from like socialism with Chinese characteristics coin?
Right. Right. John. You know how blockchain is a decentralized, honest ledger?
Yes.
So this is the opposite. I don't know what. It's very centralized, for one thing.
Yeah. Off air, you called it chink chain, and I thought that was disgusting.
I did not say that. Hurling accusations at me once again, John. Are you trying to get me thrown in jail here in China, John? Is that what you're trying to do? If you don't want to do the show anymore, just say so. Jesus.
No, I just think it would make for a really good episode if the Chinese government black-bagged you on air.
That would be a bad episode. Because who would post it, John? Who would post it?
Oh, good point. I can't be bothered with that.
You're moving to L.A. You're probably going to be black-bagged by the liberal intelligentsia when you get there.
Oh, yeah. The strong soy boy arm of the law is going to come for me in California.
John, which is it? Are they taking over? Are the communists taking over? Are they going to control every aspect of life, or are they so weak that they can't lift up their hands?
Ethan, it's here's what it is. The communists don't want power for themselves. Uh-huh. They want America to become Mexico.
Okay. A strong Mexico with a macho Mexico.
The funny thing is that the communists don't realize is that, like, Latin Americans are actually very religious, and most of the ones that come here aren't like socialist at all. So it's kind of because there's this, the alt-right buys into this concept that the communists and the Democrats and the Marxists and the postmodernists, they want to increase third world immigration into America to make white people the minority, which is happening. But they think that they want that to happen so that they can all vote Democrat, even though Hispanics don't vote for the most part.
Right.
They have some of the lowest voter turnout of any group of people, especially illegal immigrants overall. And I think that
you're saying that the illegals don't vote, John.
Yes, I am saying.
Well, they're not allowed to.
Oh, well, it still happens, Ethan.
It does not.
It does happen.
Okay, it happened once, maybe. It happens not at all. Almost not at all.
Oh, well, in that case, who cares, Ethan? What's a little voter fraud, right?
This is why we need blockchain, John.
Yeah, but it actually does. This does bring me to a story here that I wanted to bring up.
Oh, okay.
Which I found very interesting.
Oh, some content? Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah. This is from Investors Business Daily. U.S. has 3.5 million more registered voters than live adults. A red flag for electoral fraud.
Yeah, that sounds wrong.
According to a new study of U.S. Census data, America has more registered voters than actual live voters. The data came from Judicial Watch's Election Integrity Project. The group looked at data from 2011 to 2015 produced by the U.S. Census Bureau's American Community Survey, along with data from the Federal Election Assistance Commission. As reported by the National Review's DeRoy Murdoch, who did some numbers crunching of his own, some 3.5 million more people are registered to vote in the U.S. than are alive among America's adult citizens. Such staggering inaccuracy is an engraved invitation to voter fraud.
Yeah, this sounds totally wrong. This is just bullshit propaganda, John. Once again, you're repeating the fake news on the air.
Yeah, I love that. I love that that's just a thing now that, like, the left goes, yeah, it's terrible that Trump has introduced this concept of fake news. Also, if it comes from Breitbart, it's fake news.
No, let me tell you why you're wrong. Everything you said is wrong. And I'll tell you. I'll tell you without referring to any sources whatsoever. How about that?
I don't find that satisfying.
well, you will. No, because I think I've researched this sort of thing, and it's actually normal. It's common. You have voter rolls. People die. People move. Then they register in the new place that they move to. So then they're registered in 2 different states at once. Totally normal. Just part of our beautiful 50-state federalist system, John. That's just what happens.
Well, thanks for that speculation you just pulled out of your ass.
No, I actually have heard some. I've heard some very some crackerjack analysts on NPR were just talking about this, and I heard that from them.
California, for instance, has 11 counties with more registered voters than actual voters. Perhaps not surprisingly, it is deep blue state California, after all. 10 of those counties voted heavily for Hillary Clinton.
This is such right-wing propaganda, John. I swear, this is not an unbiased source.
All I'm saying is, no, it's the source is for people who want to make money. You know, there's like, this is an investment, like e-zine or whatever you want to call it. But,
okay.
But the point is, Ethan, that Hillary supporters like to say, oh, Hillary won the popular vote by over 1 million votes. Well, there are 3.5 million fake voters in this country.
That's not what that means. It doesn't mean that at all. It's not even close.
Los Angeles County, whose more than 10 million people make it the nation's most populous county, had 12% more registered voters than live ones.
John, you know this is bullshit.
700,000.
You totally know this is bullshit, and you're still doing it. By the way, I had one of my China buddies listen to the show last week, and he said, like,
oh yeah,
he was like, wow, he's like, Ethan, you know, I really like the show. You summarized each issue like very succinctly, and like it was very clear and it was easy to understand. But that John guy, man, he's just like intentionally mean the whole time. He was like he's funny, but like it's just, oh man, I can't just keep listening to that guy. It's too much.
Yeah, you know who it's not too much for? His wife.
Well, John, I've got news for you. He's gay, and
oh, well, surprise, surprise.
I'm very popular with the gays.
Were the real homos all along.
Okay, John. You're not popular with the gays. I am, okay? I'm trying to get us an important demographic here.
But that's not even true. When we had Alexis on the show, he sided with me on almost every issue.
Well, that's because Alexis is a dumbass.
Why, Ethan? Just because he's Latino? How dare you?
He's just easily swayed by whoever he thinks
whoever's
is
smarter.
Who he thinks is more alpha, even though he was wrong. I'm actually more alpha. Secretly.
Secretly. Ethan secretly masturbates to heterosexual porn, but doesn't let anyone
Don't tell anyone.
about
Don't say that, John. I can't even get hard to ladyboys anymore. It's
like
it's embarrassing.
I walked in and he was watching just two white people having sex missionary position, and he immediately switched it back to porn.
Back to what? You went out there.
Futa porn.
Oh, futa porn.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay.
I'm glad we heard the word futa. That's good.
Absolutely.
We need to work that into every episode, actually. Okay. Well, anyway, this is some garbage article you found by scraping the bottom of the barrel of the internet.
I'm sorry if I just love democracy and you have total disdain for it, Ethan.
John, you're like, I just love journalism. What's the big deal? I just love the craft of journalism.
I'll be honest, I'm a news junkie, Ethan.
John, I'll be honest, I am a junkie. Okay. By the way, did you see that there was that other story about the other Russian spy, that lady spy, Red Sparrow?
Oh, well, yeah, I saw that, but I didn't click the article.
It was something like, yeah, she was also arrested, and she had like some American boyfriend that I think was involved with the government, and but she was totally like using him, and and to get into like the Washington inner circles and stuff, and so she was like She was like an NRA booster. So she was
amazing.
She was like attempting to like stir up American opinion, you know, on the gun issue. Like stir up the right wing and rile them up, and you know, and John, she's trying to mess with our democracy. That doesn't bother you?
It bothers me that she thought, well, you're right, Ethan. Let's just hang her. Be done with it.
I say we should shoot her. Like guns so much.
Women and their manipulative ways. Am I right, Ethan?
That's not what I was saying.
That's a classic woman to just schmooze her way into the inner circles. Men like Trump get there through merit, okay? They're self-made men. And then you have this floozy come in and just sucks her way to the top. That's disgusting.
That's not what I was saying. But does it bother you at all that she was trying to like rile up the like pro-gunners and the anti-gunners and like just stir it all up? Like I know you don't believe in the country America, but don't you believe in the culture America? Doesn't it bother you when someone from outside tries to rat fuck our culture?
You're right. It does bother me when foreigners try to change this country, Ethan. I think we should close the borders, you know? I'm tired of these foreign agents infiltrating, our country and undermining our institutions. You make some great points here, Ethan. You're really changing my mind.
You mean the Russian spies, right?
Why limit it to Russians? Just first, let's go ahead and just say all Slavs, just to be safe.
Okay. All right. I think you need to be zucked again, John.
It's only intensified my no, never mind.
Okay. By the way, did you see this week there was another story where the White House or one of the executive branches came out and said poverty is over. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see that.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
great news, though.
Yeah, the Trump administration came out this week and they were basically, after Trump being like, the country's in the toilet, we've got all these poor people, we need to help them. They were like, well, Trump's been in office for a year and poverty is over.
What? I bet Democrats will still find a way to spin this good news to their favor.
Well, really, literally, no. It's actually very. It's bold, John. The move is audacious. What they're saying.
Yeah, I'd say so.
What they're saying is poverty is over. The Democrat redistribution of wealth programs all these years have worked, and so now they can all be shut down forever.
Perfect.
That's literally what they're saying.
That's hilarious.
Right? I mean, that is
I love the idea.
Just Orwellian. Yeah.
Like, poverty's over. We nuked Puerto Rico.
So we can end our nuclear program, too.
Done and done.
Oh, man.
Well, you know what? I hate to admit that these programs worked, but it looks like they really have. Time to shut them down.
It's so funny. It's just so fucking funny, man.
It's funny because the Democrats are like, no, idiot, these programs aren't meant to cure poverty. They're meant to last forever and just constantly expand.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. It's like, well, what are you going to say? It's bad when poverty is over? But of course, like, none of the statistics say that poverty is over.
No, of course
Like, when you actually look at, like, the poverty line and, like, who's eating hand to mouth and all that stuff, it's not.
Well, poverty is still a relative term because
That's true.
If we're going to look at global poverty, then, like, in America, it pretty much is over.
Right.
But, like, as far as, like...
I prefer to think of it as globalist poverty, John.
Echo.
Here in China, they have poverty,
Oh shit! Oh, do they?
Yeah. Although actually, the beggars, you don't see that many people begging, but you do see a few. It's way less than in the States.
Yeah, because they have vans that go around and harvest these people's organs.
I don't know about that. I can't talk about it. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't think we covered that. And you know what? You probably shouldn't even check that we did, if you're listening. No, they do have those vans probably, but no, they actually have beggars here, and they have the remember how I was telling you how it's a cashless economy, and
yeah.
So the beggars have these these laminated things that have a QR code on them, and you can just scan them with your phone and then send them like money.
Wow,
you just scan.
That is so weird.
Yeah, you scan the QR code and send them like 15 cents or something.
I love that even there, of course, because Asians are cheap as shit, but I love that that even their bums are years ahead of us.
Yeah, they're light years ahead, John. They are so far ahead of us. John, I'll you know what? I'll put their bums against our bums any day of the week, okay? Mentally, physically, anything,
Spiritually,
because here they've accepted it, They're Taoist, not like our bums they haven't accepted anything.
Yeah, art bums still hold on to this ridiculous notion of individual rights and the American dream. In China, they're much more enlightened, you know?
Jesus.
Do you give them money?
I actually did give I don't usually give anyone money. Like, since I quit drinking and doing drugs, I also stopped giving people money.
Boy, I misjudged AA. Maybe everyone should.
What it is that it's like I feel like I should not give people money because, like, what are they going to spend it on? You know what I mean? Like they should help themselves, I guess. It's weird. It's just a weird feeling. Like I used to get the money. Is this
coming from like the John Birch Society or something, Ethan?
I also go to those meetings, John.
You're like, well, you know, they're bums. They're just going to spend it on booze, and frankly, I want nothing to do with that.
I'm so judgmental now. I used to also be like, well, I'll probably be homeless someday, so let's get a little bit of karma saved up, you know.
And now you're like, I'm way better than these people.
But you know what? I made an exception. I don't know, because like this Chinese guy came up to me the other day, and it was really sad. It was obviously a scammy, but like it was also sad. I was standing outside my hotel, and he walked up to me, and he had his 2 children, like one on either side of him. He was an old man, and he pointed at like their mouths and like that they're hungry. And pointed at his mouth, like ooh, hungry, like rubbing his tummy, and like. And so I was like, all right, here you go. And I gave him I think 4.
A fortune cookie.
I gave him 4 kwai, like 4 renminbi, which is worth about 70 cents or something. You know.
What can you buy with that?
A dream and a song.
You can buy just enough opium to get through the day.
No, I don't know what you could buy. Not much. You could buy some water. That's what you get. But if you collect enough, enough.
Which, of course, you can't drink the water in China. So
right. No, you can buy some
irony.
some poison water, John. You can buy some bottled water for that much. For
okay.
Sure. Maybe some fruit or some nuts or something. I don't know. You could buy something. Hey, I'll tell you something else that's great about Asia while we're on the subject of cheapness. No tipping.
Tipping is only a city over there.
Okay. No, tipping is like totally not part of the culture. And I forgot how much I love it, because also in Vietnam and Singapore it's the same thing, and I love it, man. It's so much better. It is. You know what it is? It's not that I mind, tipping in the U.S. It's what it is. It's that there's a psychological burden because you have to think about how much to tip, Yeah. And you're like, well, they did a shitty job, so I'll only give 18% or whatever, or I'll round it.
Shitty job is 10% in my book.
You really? You tip 10? It's supposed to be like 15 minimum, I think, right?
No, 20 is a good tip. 10 is the minimum, is what I feel.
I've heard from people that you're supposed to tip 15 minimum, and 20 is a good tip, and then some people tip over 20 if they do really good. I think 20 is like the standard now.
Oh, that's disgusting.
What are you, Canadian, John? I tip 10. They have to work for that 15.
Well, yes. Absolutely. That is exactly how I feel. Well, I'm sorry if the customer's always right here, Ethan, not the single mother waitress.
John, maybe if I had the same constitution as you, then it wouldn't matter. You're just such a thoroughgoing asshole and proud of it that it doesn't matter. But for me, I actually, I have that moment when I'm signing the bill and I'm like, should I? Okay, I guess I'll round up a little bit, or it wasn't that good. But here, you don't have to think about it. It's like whatever was on the original thing that when you pointed at the menu and said, I want that, beef or whatever the fuck, you just pay that exact amount when you leave. And
right. You're not like, you don't have to tip because you're like, ooh, this chicken's feet was extra chewy. Here's a couple, renminbi or whatever.
Renminbi. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's great. They're just that whole part of the equation is less less space in your mind, which is great. I love that. So another thing we can learn from the Chinese, John.
I love that your whole thing was like, boy, I hate to apply any critical faculties when I'm out anywhere. I hate to assess if this was good service or not.
That's true. You look at it as fun. You're like, I get to give you a grade now.
Let's see.
I'm judging.
Only refilled my water 3 times. That's going to cost you. I have a whole checklist that I go through.
Right. I know. If I was doing that checklist, I'd be like, well, the water wasn't hot enough.
Gave me attitude when I slapped her ass. That's going to cost you.
And another thing I noticed here is like, so people told me, they said, they'll probably take pictures of you.
Yeah.
Because you're white or whatever. And there's a lot, and especially when you go to temples, there's people from the countryside and they don't see that many white people, so they might take pictures of you.
Hilarious.
But not really. Yeah, more in Southeast Asia than here. But one thing I did notice is, so one of the other professors here in the program is black. And she also brought her kids. So it's like this really super nice black professor.
The Chinese people are like, Michelle Obama. Is that you?
Yeah, and her like 3 super cute African American daughters, and so they just have never seen anything like that. And they all want to take pictures with like the little black girls, and it's so racist. It's so funny. It's so fucking funny. Yeah,
that's hilarious.
They're nice about it too. They can see they're like they sort of like smile indulgently. They're like, okay, another picture.
They should charge for it.
Oh my god, they should.
You should get a QR code, and be like, if you want to pick, here you go.
Right. All of a sudden, they would become far less attractive to the Chinese who hate to tip.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they're taking pictures of them because they find them attractive, Ethan. That's what I'm sure it's about.
I think they do. Interesting. Yeah.
No, Chinese people don't like black people.
That is also kind of true. Unfortunately, I can't deny it. It's sort of true.
That's why Black Panther bombed in China. It's too black.
And Boca. Okay. By the way, I was out in the countryside this past week, and I visited a Tibetan temple, which was interesting. Mm-hmm. And I met the Dalai Lama. No, just kidding. But it was very funny. The tour guide was terrible, like awful. And the funniest part though is she doesn't understand what she should be, what it means to be a tour guide. Like you're giving a tour, so it's like, well, what are the points of interest, right? So we're in the tour bus and we're driving down the main street of this town, and she's like, okay, so here you see is a bank. I'm like, okay. She's like, and there, police station. I'm like, all right. She's like, and there's supermarket. And so then I'm like, did I just move here? Is she like showing me around the neighborhood? Like, and so I was like, so I was making jokes.
Here is temple, but it's very old.
Right. Supermarket, new. Yeah. And so I said to the guy next to me, he's American. I was like, so we passed a KFC. And I said to the guy next to me, I was joking. I was like, and there's the KFC. And she's like, yeah, and there is KFC. You know KFC? I was like, oh my God. Yes, I do know KFC.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. And I asked one of the other Chinese people, I was like, so why is she pointing out things that are not, like, this should not be part of the tour? And she said, oh, well, this is a new development, and they're all very proud. And I'm like, oh my God, I get it. Like, these people were all, like 10 minutes ago, they were all farmers. They were like rice farmers.
Right.
And now they have a KFC, and they're like, holy shit, we should show everyone this KFC.
They're like, have you ever tried this fried chicken? It's incredible.
It's amazing. We just fermented it in the ground next to the dog, usually. But frying it in bread, it's amazing. Anyway, so that's just my other China story. Where were we, John? We've gone so far afield.
Yeah, really.
We were talking about how Trump is ruining America. Let's get back to that.
Sure.
Do you hate Trump, John? You hate Trump, right?
No, I don't hate him.
Yeah, you hate him.
I don't hate Obama either. I don't hate presidents. I feel like it's like, wow, can you believe that this president didn't limit his own power? It's like, yeah, I can totally believe that. Saw that one coming from a mile away, actually.
You actually oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, so it's just like, to me, like the idea of putting stock, especially like emotional stock, into a president and like what he's going to do is a very dumb thing to do. So I don't like get super mad when I see that a president has done something, presidential.
Right. I saw that there was a big scandal with Walmart because on their online they had a shirt that said like impeach 45.
Oh, okay.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
It was like a big scandal.
No, I didn't see that. That's hilarious.
Everyone freaked out and they were like, how dare Walmart, have you no sense of decency, Walmart? Selling a product that some people might like to buy? How dare you?
And I love that like that shirt's probably like next to a shirt that says hang 44.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, it's like, yeah, exactly. It's on the rack with the Hillary for prison shirt. Hang 44. Wow, John, that is racially insensitive. My God.
Well, I'm saying Walmart shoppers are racially insensitive. Okay, I think that's a disgusting T-shirt.
Okay.
And
I agree on both counts.
I returned the one I bought, because it didn't fit.
It was too small.
I put on some weight. And,
a little too much KFC. I did see, by the way, speaking of presidents and bad feelings about presidents, I did see that you posted on Facebook this week something that you did not get zucked for, but you did get a bad ratio, which was you posted something about how serious posts only, or this is caution, serious posts, and then you posted about what liberals losing their shit and saying that Bush was better than Trump.
Right, which is just
the ratio was out of whack though. It was like, wow, it was a small. The number of likes and comments was very funny to look at. A lot of comments.
It was a lot of comments because I argued with patron and listener Joe Duanis about the validity of the Iraq War, and he was for it.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, I didn't read all the comments because I was like, I have things to do in China. But
well, yeah, the majority of like that 100 comments or whatever came from me and Joe arguing, and then Nicholas Goulart, who's also a listener, jumped in and argued with Joe about it, and that's when I turned off notifications. But
I like how our listeners are on opposite sides of the political spectrum. That's great.
I do too. Yeah. I really do like that. I like that we foster, intelligent debate. Because Joe had some points, but like overall, I hardly. He has Joe's kind of his views are exactly what Christopher Hitchens' views were on the Iraq War. And I don't know if Joe's familiar with Christopher Hitchens, but it's an opinion I once shared, which is the fact that like Saddam Hussein was a brutal, tyrannical dictator, and no one would say like that the Iraqi people would have been better off with him in power. But it turns out they probably would have been better off with him in power, because as soon as he was out of power, Iraq exploded into civil war, because this sectarian violence had been kept under wraps only by a brutal dictator, because Iraq as a country probably shouldn't exist. And it takes a brutal secular dictator like Saddam Hussein to hold it together. And as soon as we got rid of him, the country fell apart, and millions of Iraqis died. So
this is like the arguments that like people try to argue against libertarians and say that like, oh well, drugs and prostitution, the bad people are involved with that, and people get hurt when they're in that industry. And then you like actually look at the numbers, and it's like, oh wow, like when you make drugs illegal and you try to go in there and control that situation from the outside without knowing anything about it, then way more people get hurt and die.
Exactly.
So yeah,
like the point that you brought up about Backpage.
Yeah.
When rape overall goes up, more women get raped when there's less access to prostitutes.
Which is disturbing. It means that a certain number of men are out there like, well, let me see. Rape or prostitute? Oh, there's no prostitutes available. All right, I guess it's rape. Like that. That is disturbing to think that there's a lot of guys like that. But
Ethan, we got to keep those guys happy, okay?
That's the thing. That's the problem with this sort of thing is that the reason why libertarianism is right more often than not about things like this, at least, is that when you go in there and you try to legislate morality, or you try to go into another country and say, hey, we're going to invade and tell you how to do things, you end up it just doesn't work. You end up creating problems. It's like the law of unintended consequences. You just can't control it. So.
And it's funny, Ethan? You know who actually wrote this down a long time ago was St. Thomas Aquinas. Because he was talking about – because people were debating whether or not prostitution should be illegal in his time. And he was making the point that even though, in the eyes of the church, prostitution is a sin and it's immoral and all those things, he said society, if we tried to use violence to stamp out prostitution, that would create more sin than prostitution alone creates. And so he felt – that there should just be a red light district in cities, and that so the good people could be kept away from prostitutes, but if you wanted to dip your wick, you just go down to VD Town.
Wow! Shout out to St. Thomas Aquinas, based red-pilled Volcel.
Exactly.
Correct on that issue. Yeah.
That's the difference between Volcels and incels. Is Volcels want other guys to get pussy, and that's why they're the real heroes.
I feel like this is your way to plug Catholicism, sub rosa, John.
No, it's just interesting coincidence, like all of God's miracles.
All right.
Sub rosa, don't speak Spanish on our podcast, Ethan.
I'm sorry, John. I think it's Latin.
Yeah, Latino.
That's the language that Aquinas was writing in. And the language that MASH should still be held in, I say, John.
Absolutely.
Are you an anti-Vatican II guy?
I'm an anti-guitar church guy.
Okay. So which way should the priest be facing?
Well, I don't mind him facing the congregation, but
but should his dick be out though, John? That's the part I find unacceptable. Ever since Vatican III, it's been out of hand. Okay.
Yeah, Pope Francis has really done a number on the church, no doubt.
All right, John. Well, have we covered enough ground here? Should we move to some segments? Do you want to talk about Brett Kavanaugh? I don't know.
I actually wanted to talk about an interesting Gallup poll that came out.
Okay.
It's Americans are more likely to say media are not careful to separate fact from opinion. The question posed was, which comes closer to your view? Most news media are careful to separate fact from opinion, or most news media don't do a good job of letting people know what is fact and what is opinion. 32% said they were careful. 66% said they don't do a good job.
Wow, people are smarter than they look. I don't know.
Yeah. Whereas in 1984, if we were to compare this, 58% said yes, that media were careful to separate, and 42% said they don't do a good job.
I actually think this is not a good survey though, because it doesn't. You have to tease out when people think of media, what are they talking about? Are they talking about turning on the news? The 24-hour news networks? It's all that shit is. It's just it's just opinion mixed with fake expertise, mixed with a little bit of factual reporting. I mean, it's just a bunch of garbage.
But I would say people.
But the New York Times, John. Yes. The New York Times. The Wall Street Journal.
Great. Oh yeah, they do good work. I actually have a Wall Street Journal story here. Oh no, it's a New York Times story because something just happened. This is breaking news. Michael Cohen secretly taped Trump discussing payments to Playboy model.
Oh, we got him, John. Yes. We got him. Resign, sir. Resign.
Resign, sir.
Finally, John, we can finally get Trump.
The FBI seized the recording this year during a raid on Mr. Cohen, Echo's office. The Justice Department is investigating Mr. Cohen's involvement in paying women to tamp down embarrassing news stories about Mr. Trump ahead of the 2016 election.
Wait, can I just say what a cuck? Because it's just really funny that Michael Cohen pays the women, the prostitutes, and then Trump bangs them.
Yeah, that is really funny.
It's like paying prostitutes. It's like, oh man, what'd you do today? Oh man, I paid so many hookers. Wow, you must have a lot of sex. No, none at all. Never. My boss has a lot though.
I mean, he is drowning in pussy. Top-notch snatch, you know.
Never pays, though.
It doesn't come cheap. Oh, yeah.
So we got him, John. We got him.
He's going down.
That's right. Hey, let's tell Sadiq Khan to light off another balloon. This time it can be the shape of a nail for the final nail in Trump's coffin.
Subtle, I like it.
Okay, interesting story. That's the New York Times.
Yes, that's New York Times.
See, that's real. That's real journalism.
You could write it off. That's fake for sure.
But with your survey there, that's the thing. Like people are like, oh, what the media, and then they're like, oh my God, I hate the media. The media are all those people that like when I try to come home and like eat like a burrito or something, and then my dad is there, and then it's like the TV is on, and it's like some people are yelling, and
someone getting my dad mad.
Yeah. And I'd say that's my job.
No, I know. So my dad just watches the media all day, and then when I come home, he's like, get a job, get out of my house.
And I blame the media.
I hate the media.
Fact or opinion. That's right. It really is just a bunch of bullshit. But like, that's not in 1984. That's not what the media was. In 1984, the media was like, oh yeah, the news is on from 5 to 5:30, and then I read the paper in the morning. Like, so of course back then people were like, yeah, the media is not so bad.
Right.
Because then you turn to the page that said opinion, and then you're like, oh yeah, it's actually quite well separated. They're on different pages, clearly labeled.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. You love it, John. Hey, you know what? Anarcho-capitalist dream. It's people have a product and they're selling it.
Absolutely.
Really?
What do you mean? Yeah.
So you like fake news as long as it's saleable fake news.
Were you present for the first half of this podcast, Ethan?
Okay. Touche. No, I was not present. I'm in China, John.
Additionally, the new Gallup Night survey finds nearly half of all Americans, 45%, saying there is, quote, a great deal of political bias in news coverage.
Yeah, no shit.
This represents a sharp increase compared with what other polls have measured on the same question in the past, including 25% in 1989 Pew Research Center telephone survey and 37% in that firm's most recent update in 2012. So perception of the media is sharply declining, which
I don't know. I don't know. Also, if this is like actually what's happening, or is it just what we see because everything's so sharply politically divided. In other words, it's like, oh, well, Trump does something crazy, and then so of course the coverage is all polarized into like people calling it crazy and then people defending it. So then people are like, it's all biased, and I'm like, well, yeah, but like, what if it really was crazy? Then like, there's no way out of that one, How can you?
Sure.
Right?
Sure, but that hasn't happened yet, Ethan. That's the thing.
Trump hasn't done anything crazy.
Right. Like, all we have is like, well, I'm sorry, but when you compare the Helsinki conference to 9/11, it's like, yeah, this is horseshit. This isn't journalism. Like, this is the most ridiculous comparison. Like, the worst terrorist attack on American soil compared to Trump being like, oh, this guy's okay, he's all right. It's not even comparable. So I totally see why
I prefer to think of it as
people hate it.
I prefer to think of it as Helsinki bin Laden. Okay. Anyway. All right.
It's Ted Helsinki.
Okay. There you go. Okay, so.
But yeah, that was the thing. We could definitely. Oh wait, no, there was one more thing I wanted to talk about because it was Nelson Mandela's 100th birthday.
Oh yeah,
recently.
and Obama gave that great speech.
Yes, he did. He was in South Africa and he was saying like, "Hey, white people are okay."
He did say that. Yeah, he
did.
I thought that was great. I think I actually shared that on Twitter. I retweeted because it was like, if just because someone's a white male, you shouldn't not listen to them.
Yeah, I'll read the quote.
Okay.
Democracy demands that we're able also to get inside the reality of people who are different than us so we can understand their point of view. Maybe we can change their minds. Maybe they'll change ours. You can't do this if you just out of hand disregard what your opponent has to say from the start. And if you can't, and you can't do it if you insist that those who aren't like you because they are white or they are male, somehow there is no way they can understand what I'm feeling. That somehow they lack standing to speak on certain matters.
John, I will tell you, I am so tired of these powerful males mansplaining to us how we should think.
Yeah, Obama's like, you shouldn't disregard someone just because they're male or half white.
Okay. All right, John, that's not acceptable.
No, but he is making a good point, and he's pushing back against identity politics.
Yeah.
Which kind of shows you that
it's gone too far.
Yeah, it really has. Like, if Obama's like, whoa, guys, ease up on the white males, you have to be like, whoa, the left has truly lost their fucking mind then.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that there's two lefts, there really is.
You're absolutely right about that.
There's that weird cultural left thing that is like the college student thing, and it's all the stuff that like Jordan Peterson hates.
Yes.
But also I think that it's like not real. Like I'm not sure how much it takes up a lot of oxygen and they control a lot of the discourse, but it's kind of like the crazy super right wing guys. It's basically like the right wing that you pretend to be, right, John? On this show,
right.
You're pretending.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, thank God. Okay. Whew.
Yeah, I love Jews.
Okay. Oh, good. Me too. and yeah. So that crazy alt right thing. But I'm like, the alt right and the radical left. Like, I don't feel like they are way louder than their numbers.
Absolutely. Well, see, and that's kind of the whole problem when the Democrats decided that everyone who voted for Trump was a neo-Nazi.
Oh my God.
That's
one of the reasons I started this podcast with you, because I was so angry at my liberal friends who were like, I'm not talking to anyone if they voted for Trump ever again. They are out of my life. I'm like, Jesus, that's like a bunch of people.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's like 48% of the country voted for Trump.
I mean, I have Latino friends and Middle Eastern friends who voted for Trump. Like dark.
Me too. I have tons of those.
dark guys, John. Like seriously, not pale at all. And they were like, yeah, I just was tired of the bullshit with the two parties, and Trump seemed like he was the vote if you were tired of like all the bullshit from both sides. And I was like, yeah, I see. I mean, I'm not dumb enough to do it, but I see why you did.
You're like, I'll stick with Hillary Clinton, thank you very much.
I really did say that. Oh, yeah.
The devil you know, huh, Ethan?
Is that a spirit cooking joke, John? Oh, by the way, that reminds me, I'm going to put this on the Mean and Sober Instagram, but I was literally in a restaurant last night, and they had spirit cooking on the menu. It was like,
oh my God.
Yeah, it was. I took a picture of it. It was something like, spirit cooked chicken or something. I was like, what? Anyway.
Was this at Planet Pizza or something, Ethan?
Yeah, that's right. Comet Pizza. Yeah.
Comet Pizza. Right.
All right, John. We'll do we have a cuck of the week this week? I'm hoping we do.
Absolutely, we do.
Yes. Okay. Who's this week's cuck?
Palestine.
Oh, wait a minute. No, they can't. It's not.
The Palestinians got cucked hard.
John, all right, you're gonna have to explain this one. I'm already uncomfortable.
Well, this is from the Wall Street Journal, another a news source that, you think it hold in such high esteem.
John, I would not touch that liberal rag with a 10-foot pole.
Well, listen to this headline. Get over it. Israel is the Jewish state. Okay. Jerusalem comes under fire for its new basic law, which is similar to many European constitutions. Basically what happened was on Thursday, Israel finally expressed in constitutional law the basic achievement of Zionism. Israel is the nation state of the Jewish people. In the 7 years since the new provision was first proposed, it has attracted a barrage of criticisms from the U.S. and Europe. Foreign politicians have demanded Israel not pass the law, and they have not been mollified by the removal of most of its disputed provisions. A Monday headline at Foreign Policy warned that Israel was, quote, debating democracy itself. Arab Knesset, I don't know how to say that, members ripped up copies of the bill after its passage. One called it, quote, the official beginning of fascism and apartheid. Oh. Sounds like some butthurt cucks if you ask me, Ethan.
Wait, I don't understand. So isn't this the status quo anyway, though?
Yeah, of course. Everyone has known that Israel was the state of the Jewish people, but they just passed it a law and made it like part of their constitution or whatever. So that it's like now it's official. There's no two ways about it. Israel is the nation state of the Jewish people.
So it's an ethno-state.
Yes, they have declared themselves an ethno-state.
That is not politically correct these days, John.
Sorry, liberals, if that's not politically correct, but I actually support the Jews. Maybe that's just me.
So, John, what you're saying is they're Rhodesia.
Yes, pretty much. The nation-state law declares that Israel is a country established to instantiate the Jewish people's, quote, right to national self-determination.
I think that actually is literally what the state of Israel was always meant to be.
Of course it was.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Duh.
Yeah.
But it constitutionalizes symbols of that objective, the national anthem, holidays, and so forth. There is nothing undemocratic or even unusual about this. Among European states, 7 have similar nationhood constitutional provisions. Like an example would be Slovakia. In the Slovak constitution, it opens with the words, "We, the Slovak nation," and lays claim to, quote, the natural right of nations to self-determination. So like a lot of smaller like Baltic states have these kinds of provisions in their constitutions because they were part of larger states where they were minorities, and then they balkanized, and so they're like Croatia is for the Croats, Serbia is for the Serbs, and
which are ethnic groups.
Yes, they are ethnic groups.
Interesting.
Right.
But could you be like an African Serb though?
No.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, you can't.
So it's really
a Serb.
Okay, it's really really ethno-state then. Yeah.
It is, and they are ethno-states because it's not like the Balkans get a ton of immigration,
They should though. I've heard they're beautiful.
I've heard that they're former Soviet shitholes, but to each his own.
I'm starting up a blockchain project in the Balkans, John. So,
but like the Latvian constitution opens by invoking, quote, the unwavering will of the Latvian nation to have its own state and its inalienable right of self-determination in order to guarantee the existence and development of the Latvian nation, its language and culture through the centuries.
John, I feel like with each word that you read, like Steve Bannon's boner is getting bigger.
I know that is so close to like the 14 words.
It really is. Just change the name of the race, and it totally is. Yeah.
But it's funny because this Wall Street Journal opinion piece is just like, it's 2018, folks. Ethno-nationalism's here to stay. Deal with it.
I know. It's like get over it, guys.
The new basic law also establishes Hebrew, the primary language of 80% of Israel's population, as the official language.
Echo.
I find it hard to believe that Hebrew was not the national language of Israel before this law,
Oh, yeah. I thought, well, maybe it was like Yiddish or English, too? Or I don't know.
Previously, Israel relied on a holdover British mandate provision that gave official status to Hebrew, Arabic, and English.
Oh.
Far from undermining democracy, the basic law puts Israel in line with other Western nations. Most multi-ethnic, multilingual European Union states give official status only to the majority language. Spain's constitution, for example, makes Castilian Spanish the official national language and requires all of its citizens to know it, even if their mother tongue is Basque or Catalan.
Right. Well, but that's fine, John. You don't want people speaking Basque. That is a strange language.
Yeah, that's true. Basque is actually really interesting because it doesn't have any cousins, and people linguists don't know where it came from. It doesn't
like
match any of
caveman
the
language. It's not connected at all to any It's not even Indo-European.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, bizarre. Yeah. It's bizarre. They were seriously in caves speaking that all alone for hundreds of thousands of years or something, and then they reunited with the Spanish. Yeah.
Against their will.
Oh well, yeah. Well, that's what happens. That's what happened in the.
Sorry, Palestine.
Sorry, Basque. I don't know how I feel about that, John. I guess the way that I sort of hope that nation statehood should exist, if it's even something that should continue to exist, is why not just do it the way that we did it in America, which is, okay, keep all that language in there, but just don't restrict it by race or religion. Anyone can join. All you need to be is a human being.
Yeah, Ethan, that is not historically true of America at all.
But, yeah, as far as I know. John, listen, America was founded in 2008 when Barack Obama was elected. And
and it ended in 2016.
That's right. With Pearl Harbor and 9/11 and Kristallnacht.
But the way I feel about it is I think it's totally consistent with the concept of democracy, because Israelis form the majority of Israel. And so it would make sense for them to pass laws that benefit them and don't benefit the Arab Israeli minority.
I've said it before and I'll say it again, John. Democracy just doesn't work. No, this is the tyranny of the majority, though, right?
Absolutely it is. But I do think calling it an apartheid state isn't accurate. Because Arab Israelis aren't really treated like second-class citizens. It's the Palestinians that are treated like second-class citizens. You know what I mean? If you're an Arab Israeli and you live in Israel as opposed to the Gaza Strip or the West Bank or something like that, you enjoy all the full rights of being an Israeli citizen, And you have to, just like all the other Israeli citizens, you have to serve in the military for 2 years. So to call it an apartheid state, it's not really that. It's more of two states.
So what you mean is that if you were born in a Palestine-controlled area versus if you're a ethnic Palestinian who was born within the controlled area in Israel, is that what you're saying?
Palestinian is not an ethnicity. Their ethnicity is Arab. If you're born in Palestine, it's different, I think. But it's not. Palestinian isn't its own ethnicity. There are Arab Israelis who view themselves as Arab Israelis, and they call themselves Arab Israelis. So it's not necessarily it's not an apartheid state. There aren't racial discrimination laws in Israel. It's just they enforce the borders between Israel and Palestine very strictly. And when Hamas sends all those people to suicide, to die on the fences, Israel is happy to oblige them.
Right, I see what you're saying. Interesting.
But so making Hebrew the official language, I can see though why Arab Israelis wouldn't like that. Because in Switzerland, you have German, English, and French as the official languages. And it would be weird if Switzerland just said, only German or only French or only English.
Yeah, I actually don't like I don't like official languages. I think it's a stupid idea. The only time I like it is when you make it like English or an international language, and you're like a non-English. Like Singapore did it, and it was a masterstroke. They had all these racial problems in the 60s where it was like the Chinese and the Malays were fighting in the streets, and then the Indians were not so happy either. So you had these Tamil Indians and these Malays, and then the majority Chinese. And so then they said, Lee Kuan Yew, the guy who created Singapore, basically, he was like, here's the deal.
Lee Kuan Yew did nothing wrong.
He was like, here's the deal. The official language is English, and then you get to learn whatever language you want at home, but everyone's going to speak English. And because of that, Singapore became like one of the most powerful economies I think really just, especially because of that one thing, it became one of the most powerful economies in Asia. And still is.
Absolutely.
And it's like, he solved all the racial issues and picked a language that was none of them. Like, I like that as a move.
So what you're saying is white nationalism even works in Asia.
I'm saying that the official language of Singapore should be English, but in America it should be Spanish. So, I don't think that we need one. In America, I don't think we need to have an official language. I don't even believe in that. I think it's a stupid idea.
Well, like, I think the idea of having an official language is so that you can like read the laws and interact with the government in like a uniform way, you know. So I think it makes sense. In Spain's case, like this guy was just like, yeah, Spain makes it like illegal to only speak Basque or Catalan, and that's good. You know, I disagree with that, of course.
Right.
But and the reason Spain does it is because Catalonia and Basque, they want to separate. They don't feel like they're part of Spain.
Right.
And the reason Spain forces them to speak Spanish is so that they can lose their ethnic, identity and become Spaniards. So I think there's some of the fear is the same with the Arab Israelis, by making Hebrew, which is obviously a Jewish language, to make that like the official language. I could see how it's like, you could feel like your culture is being threatened by that.
Yeah, I also feel like it doesn't fit into the like Singapore narrative. Like, oh well, if we speak Hebrew, then that'll make it easier to communicate with the international community. It's like, no,
right?
Wait, actually though,
right.
Hang on. They're geniuses, John.
An international cabal of businessmen, Ethan.
No, it should be English. It should be English.
Yeah, well, that's easy for us to say, but I mean, like, I could understand if you're an Israeli and you're like, I don't want it to be English because that's just like a reminder of like the British did this for us, and I don't want to be associated with the British.
You're right. It should be German, John. It should be.
The compromise is Yiddish, Ethan.
Yeah. Okay. So how does that make Palestine cucked?
How doesn't it, Ethan?
I guess.
Okay. Here's the reason why. Another controversial provision of the law declares, quote, the development of Jewish settlement to be a national value that the government should promote. So Jewish settlement refers to Jewish settlers encroaching on Palestinian lands and ever pushing the borders of Israel further into Palestine.
So what you're saying is that the Jewish settlers will penetrate the fertile valleys of the
and they're there to stay.
Okay. All right. Everyone gets the picture. Okay. All right. Palestine, cuck of the week.
Yep.
Well, haven't they been cucked enough, John?
Oh man, if they think so, they wait till this next generation grows up only speaking Hebrew.
Oh, holy shit! Wow, that's not going to happen. By the way, you can't read the Quran in Hebrew, John.
Oh, interesting. Oh, I wonder if they realized that when they passed this law.
The Quran actually will keep people speaking Arabic forever. Because
for sure,
you can't. It's the only holy book where you actually have to be able to read it in Arabic to really officially read it. So
right, But it would be really funny, though, if the reason they made Hebrew the official language is so, like, a Muslim kid grows up and it's like, I'd love to read the Quran. And they're like, here you go. And it's just the Torah.
Oh, right. Yeah, sure. They just give them the Jewish Bible.
Because they only speak Hebrew. Right. Yeah. And they're like, yeah, this is the Quran. Read up.
Wow. To be honest, they're not that different, John.
No shit, Ethan.
Yeah. Okay, so, all right, that was Cuck of the Week. Let's move on to Conspiracy Friday.
We got a juicy one here.
All right, I'm excited.
Since Russia and collusion and secrecy is all in the news, this is a blast from 1984. And this story was published in 2009 on Forbes. That's where I'm reading it. Ted Kennedy's Soviet Gambit.
Okay.
In 1984, Ted Kennedy established back channels with Secretary of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, Yuri Andropov. And he basically he proposed an unabashed quid pro quo. Kennedy would lend Andropov a hand in dealing with President Reagan. In return, the Soviet leader would lend the Democratic Party a hand in challenging Reagan in the 1984 presidential election. Quote, the only real potential threats to Reagan are problems of war and peace and Soviet-American relations, the memorandum stated. These issues, according to the senator, will, without a doubt, become the most important of the election campaign. Kennedy made Andropov a couple of specific offers. First, he offered to visit Moscow. Quote, the main purpose of the meeting, according to the senator, would be to arm Soviet officials with explanations regarding problems of nuclear disarmament so they may be better prepared and more convincing during appearances in the USA. Kennedy would help the Soviets deal with Reagan by telling them how to brush up their propaganda. Then he offered to make it possible for Andropov to sit down for a few interviews on American television. A direct appeal to the American people will, without a doubt, attract a great deal of attention and interest in the country. If the proposal is recognized as worthy, then Kennedy and his friends will bring about suitable steps to have representatives of the largest television companies in the USA contact Andropov for an invitation to Moscow for the interviews. The senator underlined the importance that this initiative should be seen as coming from the side of the Americans. So Kennedy was literally proposing – a quid pro quo with communist Russia to help undermine Ronald Reagan.
John, can't you leave that nice Irish alcoholic with brain cancer alone?
That murderer.
Oh yeah, he kind of was, huh?
Yeah, he killed that poor girl.
Oh my God, Mary Jo Kopechnik. That's right. Did you see that movie about him?
Chappaquiddick? No, I didn't see it.
David Martin saw it. He said he was like, holy shit, man. I didn't even know about that. It was crazy.
Yeah, it is kind of crazy, actually, that Ted Kennedy killed a woman and then covered it up, and then he was still allowed to be a senator so that he could –
But not president, John. Never president.
But so that he could make backroom deals with the Soviets to undermine President Reagan.
That was – I remember when I heard about that, because my parents used to be like Republican when I was younger, because they were super Christian, and they would listen to like Rush Limbaugh, and Rush Limbaugh would talk about like Ted Kennedy and like Mary Jo Kopechnik and like the Chappaquiddick and the being in the river and all that stuff. And I remember asking my dad, like, I was like, what is that? What is he talking about? What happened? And then he like told me the story, and I was like, really? Like. And my dad was like, and they said he would be president, but then when that happened, it ruined his presidential chances forever. And I was like, yeah, but he's still like free and a senator.
He was still a senator. It's like he was only allowed to hold the second most powerful office in the land.
Oh, right.
It's like, shouldn't he be in prison?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay, so let me see if I understand this crooked deal.
That's only the tip of the iceberg with them, Mason.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so what happened with this? So he made a deal with this Andropov guy is who?
He was, let me read his official title here again. Secretary of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union.
Sounds like an important job.
I'm sorry, General Secretary of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of the Soviet
General
Union.
Secretary. Okay. So he makes a deal, and what is it? They're going to sit down for an interview?
What it was is he wanted to give Andropov basically info on the American nuclear program, so that when he spoke to Reagan on a national stage, that the Soviets would be more prepared, to either call Reagan out on his bullshit, or they would have more leverage because they know more than Reagan thought they know.
That's so funny. Like, the Democrats are like, here's how we're going to get Reagan. We're going to prove that he's dumb. And it's like, that was Reagan's whole shtick was like, I don't know. I just want to run a good country.
Well,
yeah.
I'm just a kindly old badger. That's all.
That's right. I don't need to know those details.
Kennedy proved eager to deal with Andropov, the leader of the Soviet Union, a former director of the KGB, and a principal mover in both the crushing of the 1956 Hungarian Revolution and this. Oh, yeah, Andropov was the Hungarian Revolution guy. Yeah, when Hungary tried to separate from the Soviet Union, they sent in the tanks. That's where the term tanky comes from. So Andropov was the guy who sent in the tanks to crush the Hungarian Revolution. That's hilarious.
Oh.
So one of the original tankies.
Okay. Tanky OG.
And Kennedy's like, hey, we got to work together to fuck over the president of the United States.
Is this a true conspiracy? Did this really happen?
Yes. Because all this information came from a memo that because when Boris Yeltsin assumed power in 1991, he just threw open a bunch of the Soviet archives.
Oh, wow.
And this memo, which was composed in 1983 by Viktor Chebrikov, the top man at the KGB, it was addressed to Yuri Andropov, and it was about Ted Kennedy being like, hey, let's work together.
So that all that came out in the 2000s?
In 1991, that's when the archives were open.
Oh.
And in 1992, Tim Sebastian published a story about the memorandum in the London Times. And
Ted Kennedy was elected for the 7th term.
No one gave a shit.
Yeah.
And then he wrote a book in 2006 called The Crusader, Ronald Reagan and the Fall of Communism. And in that, they talked about it a lot more, and apparently that's when the story gained a lot of traction in the American media.
Which was also that was kind of around the time Ted Kennedy was on his way out, I think, actually, right?
Yeah. Let's see here. The document, Kangor continues, has stood the test of time. I scrutinized it more carefully than anything I've ever dealt with as a scholar. I showed the document to numerous authorities who deal with Soviet archival material. No one has debunked the memorandum or shown it to be a forgery. Kennedy's office did not deny it.
Wow. So what you're saying is Trump did nothing wrong.
No, what I'm just saying is, like, there are back channels between superpowers,
Right.
To me, it's not like the craziest thing in the world. But it is crazy that Kennedy the fact, though, that Ted Kennedy wanted support from the Soviet Union for the Democratic Party, it kind of does confirm a lot of the conspiracy theories that the Democratic Party is the anti-American party.
And the Communist Party.
Yeah.
Right.
But Andropov never did anything with it. He never acted on the memo.
Oh, so there you go. No harm, no foul. Conspiracy over.
Here's the last line.
Debunked, John. Another conspiracy from John Gregory. Debunked.
When President Reagan chose to confront the Soviet Union, calling it the evil empire that it was, Senator Edward Kennedy chose to offer aid and comfort to General Secretary Andropov. On the Cold War, the greatest issue of his lifetime, Kennedy got it wrong. Gonna have to agree with that overall. Like, siding with the Soviets in the 80s, like, hey.
It's Austin Powers. It's finally those capitalist pigs will pay for their crimes, eh, comrade?
Hey, comrade? Yeah. Like, like, Ted Kennedy was like, okay, look, Reagan's on the way out, but the Soviet Union is here to stay.
Right. Right. Oh, that's great.
Meanwhile,
I'll bet my last ruble on that.
Right. Reagan gets another 4 years, and then his vice president gets 4 years. Meanwhile, the Soviet Union just fucking collapses.
Right.
But, yeah, turns out Ted Kennedy, big old commie dumbass.
John, you're probably going to be saying the same thing with another senator who has cancer right now.
McCain?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I really hope someone murders him in Minecraft, you know?
Why in Minecraft?
That's a joke on the internet, is like whenever you talk about publicly killing a politician, you just say in Minecraft so everyone knows you're joking.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, so you're saying...
It's to avoid... It's called Fed posting. You know, it's to avoid, like, the FBI knocking on your door being like, did you make a threatening comment against our greatest Senator Elizabeth Warren?
I'd just like to say to the FBI and CIA spooks listening to our show, donate. You should donate to our Patreon. If you want to keep getting this good intel, you got to keep those dollars rolling in.
And I would like to say to the Chinese Communist Party officials listening that Ethan is staying at the Mandarin Hotel in Beijing.
Okay, that's all the time we have. It's over. John, you don't really want it to be just mean, do you?
No, that's true.
Yeah, no one wants to hear that.
What's a bull without his cock? You know?
I don't know. You should know.
Yeah, so that's Conspiracy Friday, Ethan.
Good stuff, John. All right, Conspiracy Friday. Thank you. I enjoyed it. Well, John, I feel like as we wrap up the show, here from China, it would kind of be cool to read out the names of our patrons, you know, so that
let's do it.
So that they can all be captured in that same database that I'm being captured in here in China. All right. So first of all, let's just shout out to all of our patrons. Oh, and anyone listening, if you would like to donate, you can do so by going to patreon.com/meanandsober. That's how you support our show. Just go in there and give us a monthly donation. You know, we put out shows. Well, this month hasn't quite been every week, but we normally put them out every week. And to those of you who have been wondering, it looks like we're going to be continuing the show, even though John is moving to Los Angeles in about 2 weeks.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, we're going to set this up. We're doing it remote from China, so should be pretty easy to do it from LA.
Yeah, I mean, if Ethan can do it in communist China, I'm sure I can do it in communist California.
That's right, John. Oh, man. They are going to change you, John. You are going to come back with granola on your lips and the Internationale in your heart.
I'm going to come back like, I love white genocide.
John Gregory, Cuck of the Week every week here on Mean and Sober. I'll enjoy that. But if you would like to join, yes, still please keep supporting the show because we are going to keep it going. And I'll go ahead and read out all the names of the patrons right now. So first of all, Francisco Simon, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Kevin Gregory, thank you very much. Both of those guys
Gun Nut
at the top of the Gun Nut, Kevin Gregory. Both of those guys at the top tier there. Not quite Führer, but the one just below Führer. Currently our
Open-Gruppenführer.
That's right. Sturmbannführer, John, I think it is. We'd also like to thank all of our other current donors. We have Jack. We have Jacob Lamphere. We have Matt Long, our resident Cuck, who recently got his Mean and Sober t-shirt.
Yes, and took a great picture of him enjoying some Nazi milk.
That's right, some delicious Nazi beans, some soy. And thank you also to Victoria Russell for donating.
Yes, thank you.
For supporting the show. Also, we want to thank Nicholas Goulart, Lori Kusmal, Joe Duenas, and Dalton Bonner. So thank you to all of our listeners. We do appreciate it so much. And once again,
thanks, guys.
If you want to join the Mean and Sober Army, you can go to patreon.com/meanandsober and sign up there. Also, another thing you can do to help the show is you can go on iTunes and give us a rating and review. Just give us 5 stars, and you can write anything you want in the review box there. We would appreciate it very much. John, where can people find you on social media?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at John Gregory Jr. That's at John Gregory Jr.
Right on. You can follow me on Twitter or Instagram at EthanIsNotFunny. I am currently tweeting out a bunch of stuff about China, posting a bunch of things that I seem to find funny in China here. Odd little things, little jokes.
Is that a reference to Asian penis size, Ethan?
Yes, it's all penises all the time. Just follow me on Instagram at EthanIsNotFunny. Actually, I was talking to a gay buddy of mine, and he said he likes Asian guys because small penis, so doesn't hurt the butt.
Doesn't tear it up.
Yeah, makes sense. I agree.
Less AIDS.
I concur. And then you can also follow the show on Facebook, and we have a Facebook page. You can like Mean and Sober. John posts a bunch of hate on there, so if you like hate, check it out. Conspiracy theories, unfounded rumors, all sorts of things.
Just owning the libs, I would say, overall.
A lot of owning the libs, John. Are you going to get tired of owning the libs? One of these days, I feel like you will.
Like Trump said, we're going to get tired of owning.
What does that mean?
No, because he said we're going to get tired of winning, but we haven't gotten tired of winning.
Oh, okay.
Because we're still owning the libs. It fell flat.
I thought it was a slavery reference. That's why I didn't laugh.
Goodness. Good
Unacceptable, John. All right, well, that about does it for this week's Mean and Sober. I want to thank everyone once again for listening. I'll see all you guys later. And, John, I'll see you later.
See you later, you commie cuck.